Welcome to Los Angeles Family Church Sunday service. Give yourselves a round of applause. And let's all rise and welcome our LA Family Church band for our opening song.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. We're going to sing the Trinidad anthem.
Beloved God, our Heavenly Parent, our true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind, we are here. We are excited. We are hopeful of the dream that you have and have had, God, for all this time. And we are hopeful because we believe that in this current era that we're in, that we can build it, that we can realize your dream, and we can create a home for you to rest and tell old stories with your grandchildren. God, we thank you, and we are so grateful for the rain that has come and the washing over Los Angeles. Heavenly Parent, and I pray that everyone is making their way safely through it to be here or at home in the comfort of the couch or wherever they may be together as a family. And so, God, please, we open our hearts humbly. We ask that you can speak to us today, especially as we've received Reverend Damian Dunkley, our chairman. And God, I pray that this can be a moment, and the conclusion of our Rebirth workshop can conclude with rebirth and the budding of our filial hearts. So we offer this prayer in all of our names here in Joshua and Takaya homes. As a blessed central couple, I pray, amen and Aju. Aju. Let's invite up a band one more time for our song.
All right, we're going to continue on with Grace of the Holy Garden, so let's uplift the spirit here. Most of you should know this song, so I want to hear you singing. Grace filling me with golden light, measureless blessing divine. God gives eternal life to me, perfect rejoicing.
Thank you. Let's give another round of applause to our LA Family Church band. Please have a seat. Once again, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Wow, gosh, we've been here for the last 2 days. Who was here for the past 2 days? Oh my goodness. So for those that are just joining us, don't worry. You did miss out a little bit, but that's okay. We'll catch you up to speed. All you have to do, as Reverend Damien says, just read this board and you'll be caught up to speed. You'll be fine. We've had an amazing 2 days, previous 2 days now, our third day with Reverend Damien for our Rebirth workshop. And I hope everyone has been able to begin to digest what you're receiving. We heard this morning some people are still in a stupor, was the word used. Still feeling, wow, shocked by what was shared, digesting, and that is okay. We are in that process together, and the Chonchimon is here for you for that reason. As many other reasons, we hope that you can find peace there. You can find answers there. Listen to heaven's voice. And so today will be shorter. We're just going to have one session with Reverend Dunkley. Then we'll make our way over to the Chonchimon after that to conclude in prayer. And that'll be our official conclusion for the day. And we hope everyone can make it home. We were told by the weather forecast the storm is coming at 11 a.m. So you will be home before then. Absolutely. Our goal is to finish by 9. And so all of that can be settled and you can be happy in the comfort of your home. So without further ado, I am honored and so grateful. He's given his total investment to Los Angeles Family Church over the last 2 days, giving every fiber of his being. Please give a round of applause to Reverend Damien.
All right, good morning. Thank you, Reverend Holmes. Let's give it up for the LA community, the LA band, LA leaders. All right. What should we do here? Okay, here's the question. What would we look like as a community in Cheonilguk? What would it feel like to be a part of a community that is attending Heavenly Parent and expressing response, expressing the experience? Like, first time you have a real Italian pizza. I don't know if probably most of you haven't even yet had a real Italian pizza, but I've seen the expression on people's faces. It's like, oh my God. Even people from Chicago, even people who like Two Bros Pizza in New York, they have and just like Ricky, just like your face right now, like that. I've seen it. So when your eyes are opened, you know that feeling? Like the first time you really get to. So imagine, what would our community look like? What would our experience together be like if we were really living in that community where you don't want to leave? So today's reading is from the Mother of Peace. This was a selection chosen by Resfred. Where are you, Resfred? Doing his thing. He's on camera. So this is from the Mother of Peace. To awaken people who have eyes but cannot see. As my husband's wife, I offered devotions in remembrance of True Father every day for 3 years on behalf of all people. With this depth of commitment, I promised my husband and all the members of our worldwide movement this: I will bring us back to the spirit of the early days of our church, and I will create a revival through spirit and truth. Aju? Mother is leading this revival. From the moment that Father passed, Mother had to pick up the reins, and this is what was on her mind, and this is what she was pledging to heaven. Absolute determination to take us back to the spirit of the early days of the church, reviving through spirit and truth. Isn't that amazing? Why is that amazing? Because Mother's doing it. The thing is, we still haven't really necessarily understood or experienced what she means by that. And let me confess to you, That problem goes all the way to the very top. That means from the highest levels to the most simple levels, we have not been actually really doing what it is that Mother wants us to do. So we should think about that. She says, I dream of a church that feels like a mother's warm embrace. A church that is like a home, where people always want to come and stay. This is my husband's dream as well. Honoring him, I made the decision to dedicate myself to God and all humankind even more than before. Since that hour, I have never fully rested. So thank you, Resfred, for choosing today's scripture. I dream of a church that feels like a mother's warm embrace. Where people always want to come and stay. So think about this. What is it that makes you want to come and stay? Think about this room. Is this a room where you want to come and stay? Just answer me honestly. How many of you come here middle of the week to hang out in this room? You could, right? I mean, you could put a movie and watch a movie. It's pretty well, if you had popcorn, somebody walking around with a popcorn tray like the old days. Remember the old days where they used to walk around with the concessions and the straps and the old people? You got to be ex-gen and up to know about them days. So you could watch a movie here. That's suitable. But you're not really going to come to this room to hang out with your friends, are you? Or your brothers and sisters, or just if you're with your family. And there's lots of great places to go to in LA. The question is, which place gives you that feeling of the most warm mother's embrace? So it's a very practical thing. So Resfred and Reverend Tengen and I were talking in the car on the way over as the rain's hitting down. I was asking, Resfred, do you like the rain? He says, yeah, I love the rain. It reminds me of my home. It reminds me of my childhood back home. They had two seasons there, like a rainy season and a dry season. Ghana, right? In Ghana. And he said, when I hear the rain, it just reminds me of tucking myself in bed, being embraced by my covers, and just hearing the rain fall outside. I'm safe, I'm warm. It's like, in some sense, it's like reminding us of our mother's womb. And then he talked about what it was like going to church. He used to get some kind of a bus, go close to the church, walk up the hill to the church with his buddies, but they'd stop off for some hot bread. They'd buy some hot bread that comes out of the stone fire. So they take that hot bread. You can just imagine those kind of moments that we have in our childhood. That hot bread is like, warms you up your tummy. And they go into the church and hang out. But they'd be there. Where would they be? Apparently they had couches there. Is that right? They had couches there. And after hanging out on the couches, you'd go, where? Onto the bunk beds. They had bunk beds. He told me that although compared to most of our American churches, it's very humble. They don't have a snazzy, fugazi band and lights and all the technology. But he said there was a spirit there. It resulted in people not wanting to leave. People wanted to stay. You don't have to convince people to stay. You don't have to say to you, oh, if you come here and you stay here, you will be chalking off indemnity points that you can cash in later when you die. You don't have to be told, if you spend an extra 6 hours here, your ancestors will be a little bit more liberated. What Mother's describing is not something that you need to be sold. It's not something that you need to do so that you feel like you're doing a good job or following your duty. it's something naturally that even your body, yes, your body, your evil, bad body, wants to actually experience the warm embrace of your mother's love. This is the church that true mother's dreaming of. This is the meaning, the spirit of the early days of the church, the feeling of the early days of the church with spirit and truth. Who wants to be a part of that? We have to start with understanding that, we're on our way toward that. But I really want you to first of all, just imagine everybody's fired. Just imagine that. Everybody's fired. Forget all the positions. Forget everything you know, everything you learned, everything you were taught. Well, what kind of community would we make if we really worked together to experience that? Now, in response to Resfred's warm, cozy testimony, I shared with him a story that I remember from a church. I won't mention which church. It was a church that I was kind of taking care of at the time. And there's a food table along the side for after church. And there's always one little old lady that's sitting by the food area, right? And I always appreciated her because she seems to always be helping to set that up, and she's there before the food comes. She's there, while we're in service. She doesn't even sit. She's like still sitting by the food during service, and then when people start coming through, she's kind of there to make sure that everybody's getting their equal share maybe, and then, after it's all done, she's still kind of there. It's like, oh, I guess that's her job. But I'm helping out, I'm a public figure, my family, dragging my kids around. They have to come to church early with me. And then Jonathan and Hannah. This is not Timothy. Timothy, maybe he looks a little bit more mischievous, right? But Jonathan and Hannah, they just innocently went. They had to be there early, so it's still like 30 minutes before church. They're getting thirsty. They haven't had breakfast. And so they walk towards the food table, and they see some drinks there, and they just look at them. They just look at the drinks. Now, I don't know about this. I didn't see this. I hear about this later on the way home. I'm focusing on giving the sermon of the day. I'm trying to inspire the members, talking about Chonoguk. We're going to the promised land. Yeah, guys, we could do it. My kids just like, oh, yeah, Dad's talking again. And on the way home, they start telling me, so Dad, can I tell you what actually happened at church? It's really scary. No, Joe, you don't have to go. No, Dad, you need to know. Okay, what happened? So, like 30 minutes before service, the kids they're starving now. Like they've had to get up earlier than everybody else to be there. And they just go to that food table and they look at the drinks. They just look at the drinks because they're thirsty. They're just looking. And then this lady who's always sitting in the same chair, right? She's like looking at him. And don't you be thinking about touching any of that food on that table now, you hear? Until it's after service, like she scolded them. God bless her. She's protecting. Making sure that nobody touches that food until it's time. But it's not really the environment of a warm embrace. In fact, this is my children's conclusion. In fact, this is how the conversation started. I forgot to tell you. I'm driving home, back to my home, and they said, Daddy, I never want to go back to that church again. That's what started the conversation. I forgot. That's how I should start the story. So then I said, why? Well, this is what happened. So that's what happened. Now, is it her fault? I don't think so. We have to check ourselves. It's part of a culture that we've all kind of subscribed to. Yes, each of us have our own responsibility. But we get to decide what our community looks like. Mother is trying to start a revival for the last 10 years, and we're still like, oh, okay, right? She's trying to start a revival. Wants to go back to the spirit and truth, that kind of early days feeling that we had in the church that maybe some of us experienced. I believe maybe in Oakland you had that kind of experience. We went for a walk yesterday with Ricky. Isn't that what you were describing, right? There's many places throughout the unification movement at a time when we had that experience of the spirit and truth. But we shouldn't just assume because it's happening in the church, because True Parents' picture is on the wall, because the church leader is leading it, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the environment that mother is dreaming of, praying for. Oh, right? Maybe even from my word now, you're thinking, well, yeah, okay. What about you speak in a way that I feel embraced and warm and fuzzy? So we'll try to get there. Today is the last session of the Chonchimwon Rebirth workshop. And it's the time I want to share with you a little bit about what mother is trying to do going forward to create that environment. It's not the only thing that's going on. We should be looking at what mother's doing practically to create the environment that she's speaking of. And we can inherit, we can catch the intention, we can replicate all of the parts that really would work here, that we would be able to replicate. We can build on that, we can be creative around that. We get to create the kingdom of heaven together. Isn't that awesome? So, by the way, do you have any couches here in this church? Used to. We threw them out, good. We got rid of those comfortable chairs. And why do we have so much cushion on the pews, by the way? I think, personally, I like longer sermons where you get to sit on just the hard wood, Forget the cushions. So, actually, we do have couches. They're here in the green room for the VIPs. Oh, for the band. So the band gets, does the band hang out? I'm guessing the band enjoys your time, right? When you're hanging out and practicing, you can create your own environment, right? Right? So the question is, does everybody have a place to go? I remember in Clifton Church, it wasn't until one of the moms, second-gen mothers, took it upon herself to actually design and create a whole room about this big, dedicated to toddlers, that there was actually a place for mothers to go and, breastfeed their kids and let their little babies run around during service. It was the initiative of one of the mothers that did it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. So when you think about mother talking about 99.999% we come from the mother and 0.0001% we come from the father, the environment, mother's talking about the environment, mother's talking about the space, the experience. Do you understand? So everything that we say, everything we do, that's just 0.1% of it. But what's the environment within which we're doing those things? That's so important, right? Okay, so let's look at, I've got some slides I want to share with you. When I was in Korea last time with Yumiko, mother asked me to stay a few extra days to have an experience. And what she wanted me to experience was this kind of environmental education. Feeling Hyojung, feeling Kingdom of Heaven through the environment that she's creating. So let's look at it. I got some slides ready. This is actually a business plan for the HJ Familia Cafe. Has anybody heard of the HJ Familia Cafe? Like two of you? And then there's another one, HJ Nuri, Hyojung World, Hyojung Nuri. Have you heard of that? Did you ever see like a 3.5 hour Sunday service for kids? They were streaming them from Korea. What are we looking at here? So not the timeline, not this. Next, not this. This is the wrong. It's not a PowerPoint. It's a PDF. It's the one I sent you last night. It's not this. Okay, great. This one. All right. How about that? Space for the happiness of the whole family. Hyojung Familia Cafe business proposal. So this is a business proposal. This isn't really for distribution, in fact. But they gave me a copy in English so that I could understand. And I sat through, with the guy in charge of this, I sat through his presentation of what this is. So what we're going to look at briefly here is the team's best representation and understanding of what Mother's trying to do. Mother did not put together this presentation, but Mother gave direction to do this kind of thing, and this is what they have offered back to True Mother. Mother wanted to create a space as a business model also, where young families can come, they can just sit for a coffee, like the parents can just sit down and relax for a coffee or even a meal, a light meal, while the kids can play. But not just play. The kids can maybe learn something. There's different classrooms there maybe. There's different little activities going on with trained caretakers and teachers who can take care of those little guys. It's the age range, target age range is like 3 to 7. You can, if you're a little older, you can come. If you're a little younger, you can come. And you'll come to this place. You know, in Korea, this is not an unusual thing. You know, they have cafes and restaurants. Everywhere you go, they've got space for the children. It's fantastic. I don't know why we don't get this in America. You would think there'd be a market for it. It's only McDonald's, right? Basically. But the kind of cafe or the family cafe is a common thing in Korea. In fact, in Hannam, where we initiated our pilot HJ Familia Cafe, it's about 45-minute drive from Cheongpyeong. In Hannam City, which is a booming city full of young families, they have 40 of these types of cafes, 40. So we're going into competition with 39 other people. But the uniqueness of our HJ Familia Cafe, as imagined by True Mother, is the difference of the spirit, the environment. So externally there might be some similarities and some differences. But I was asking, what's the unique thing about this that sets it apart? Well, the staff are all YSP. Of course, most of them are blessed kids, right? But they're YSP. That means they've really, you know, they're doing their job in resonance with attending true parents and Heavenly Parent. And so you're supposed to experience this feeling of Hyojung from the minute you get out of the elevator and walk in, whether you're ordering yourself a cafe or a plate of spaghetti, whether you're checking your children in or watching your children from afar playing and there's somebody playing with them. From the moment that you walk in there with your family, you feel the environment of Hyojung, the music that's playing, the little children's books that they're selling, everything. So let's run through it real quick. I'll just skip through this. Okay, this is the contents. Let's go. So let's read this. We cannot realize the dream of our Heavenly Parent without knowing true parents. This is true. The world must become one centered on God. We must make an environment where that can be taught when the baby is still inside the mother's womb. In doing so, cultural activity is also significant. We must guide people to the way of goodness through music and meditations. So you can glance at the rest there. What Mother's talking about is witnessing, witnessing, and witnessing, right? But she's not talking about, hey, you come here, listen to me, I'm going to tell you. She's not talking about bully witnessing, wilderness witnessing, or indemnity witnessing. Actually, Mother's talking a lot about, you could say, environmental witnessing, cultural witnessing. These are not new concepts to us, but it's perhaps new for us to know that True Mother's been always thinking that way. And I believe, for those of you that were here for the workshop, I believe this is the heart with which Mother would have been leading 60 years ago, given the chance. You understand? Okay. So let's go. For business outline, what's next? Okay, so it's family-centered. So you can see all of this, establishing a place for culture witnessing, targeting kids and family with the purpose of expanding the Heavenly Parent's holy community. It's also an income model. It's an environment for training future leaders. You know, these young staff, they're not just coming to learn how to be a barista or coming, but they're doing it with a deeper purpose. There's an atmosphere that they're learning to connect to and convey to their customer. Hyojung. So it's an environment for learning for those who are actually running it. And it's connected to, you know, we're actually serving a demographic in society, and that's going to be an experience of learning how to really relate to and support that demographic, and it's going to go into our research institute and developing culture education and all of this. So let's move on next. So, you know, what they're building around this is, you know, games, theme park, merchandise, cultural performance, webtoon, children's book, media contents, training programs, study booklet, children's songs, sound, animation, and so on. It's massive. In fact, I sat down with these guys for like 2.5 hours. The presentation was about 45 minutes, but I went thoroughly through a lot of questions, also from a business perspective, you know. I asked them, you know, what's the biggest challenge you've faced so far? And they were honest with me. They said, look, we tried it all too fast, too soon, too much, and we had to start cutting back. So, but the point is, what is Mother thinking? What is Mother reaching for, looking for? Like this, what does Chanoguk look like? What does it look like? Guess what? Even God is waiting to find out. Because you're a part of creating it. Let's go on. So, all right, these are the main four aspects. It's emotion, intellect, will, and dream. We all know about emotion, intellect, and will, but dream is the element that really is fascinating, because it's the part that outside of space and time is pulling you towards something, right? Next. Okay, so you can kind of get the Hyojung space, right? This is a place where there's love and respect for people and nature, nice. It's a place where social relationships conveying our Hyojung culture, communication, nurturing upright character, physical activity for healthy growth, artistic experience, autonomy and creativity. Did you ever hear such a thing coming out of Korea? Autonomy and creativity? Ooh. Next. Okay, organization. So this is a business, kind of a business proposal. So you're looking at it from that perspective. So the idea is to hit each of these areas. Like, the idea being that if you hit each of these four areas, the human being is going to have a good experience. They'll have a whole experience, right? So in terms of the emotion, it's about the environment. The cafe, the restaurant, the music, the food, the artwork on top of the cappuccino, whatever it is. It's all that environment, right? YSP Lab, Kona Queen's coffee. Okay, next is intellect. So you've got, culture education, online, offline. Look at this image. This isn't a picture of the cafe, but it's an image of, trying to capture the feeling of what education can be like for kids. Actually, everything's education, the whole experience. But there's also books there. What's interesting is, it's not all about books. Sorry, Confucius, I know you might think otherwise, but it turns out there's a lot more than just sitting down listening to somebody speak at you, okay? Next, we've got will. So there's a lot of play area. This is the biggest area, play, Hyojung Forest. Wow, Hyojung Forest. This is just ideas, right? And then a YouTube creator studio, what is your dream? This is like, what do you want to build? Where you want to go? And so let's move on, next slide. Okay, so this is like, how does everything connect? They're trying to study. They're thinking about, how's this going to work? And nothing ever works perfectly first time, but they're feeling their way through this. And these are the various aspects, open and variable, connecting contents. Okay, next. Even talking about lighting. All right. So these are the four characters. Each of these characters has a name. Each of their names begins with Hyo, I think, right? I forget their name. Anybody remember their name? I didn't memorize their names yet. But each of these target aspects of human experience, dream, intellect, emotion, and will, are represented by these cartoon characters. These are real cartoon characters. And these guys play a role in their animations, in their books, and everything else. So this is how they're trying to piece everything together. So the idea of will, or the idea of emotion, is expressed through the character and nature of that cartoon. Right? So next. Okay, this is the logo concept. They're still working on it. By the way, HJ Familia Cafe, in Korea, the term cafe doesn't just mean a place where you go get your coffee. It's more akin to the original, maybe the more, the European square where you've got the cafe, or it's like an environment where family can come. So the word cafe in Korea means more than it does to us in America. It's not just Starbucks where Starbucks is actually also an environment designed to be between your home and work, a place where you want to stay. But it's not really a place where you'd bring your kids so much, right? It's targeting a certain demographic, right? So let's go next. Okay, next, management plan. Okay, they've got a management plan, great, next. Okay, this is your experience of customer service. This isn't something you have to learn as a customer, but this is something we have to learn how to give you the experience as a customer, right? So what's your experience when you check in, the counter, the seating, you order, everything, right? And then check your customer satisfaction. Okay, next. Okay, this is like a daily schedule. Next. Next. Look, this is the layout of the first one in Hannam. So you've got dream area, you've got emotion zone, you've got intellect and will. Look how small the territory for intellect is. I was joking about that with Naokimi. He thought it was funny. Quite different because, other people going to these cafes in Korea, they might think, Koreans are really hot on education, studying until 12 midnight, going to extracurricular courses and so on. But if you just look at this map, it says everything in a sense. Yes, we need that intellectual muscle. We need that time to learn something, to hear something, to see something, to read something that we didn't know before, that changes the wiring of our understanding. Yes, it's great. But it's not everything. And if you just focus on that and don't show that these other things matter, it's damaging. And just by looking at this, well, in terms of play, will, you need space. In terms of emotion, the emotion is the central zone. Like everything that you walk into, when you walk in there, when you walk out of there, to get to any other area, you're going through that emotion, that environment, that music, that smell, that ambiance. Très bien. L'ambiance. Okay, next. Okay, for all you architects out there. All right, next. Next. Oh, next. That's it, right? A Hyojang Cafe, space for the family. So it's actually a business. And Mother wants to create something like this in Las Vegas. Reverend Ken Du is responsible to build the first one at least. But Mother mentioned, this is something we should have eventually in every church in America. Right now, Reverend Jackson is leaving Dallas. He's joining his family in Arkansas. And he's building a church. He's got one. It's a shopfront church. And he told me that the first thing he wants, it's just one big window and then a long room, a long space. And he told me the design, the layout for it is quite interesting. He said, okay, we're going to have a cafe in the front. The first thing you see is a cafe. And that income is going to go toward supporting the rent of the church, right? So first you have the cafe. The next section is going to be like a couple of nice size conference rooms like that you would have at the back of a cafe, but also like you might have at a church, a place to have a little meeting, right? Maybe a big screen TV, a little table, some chairs, 2 conference rooms. And then behind that you've got a long sanctuary. And then behind the sanctuary you've got Cheonshimwon, right? That's like the smallest footprint example of what a church might look like. So you've got that emotional experience when you come in, a place to hang out, a place to be fed, a place to be loved, a place to be welcomed. Hi, how you doing today? When you come to church, that's how the feeling should be. Better than how they treat you when you go to Subway, or better than how they treat you when you go to Starbucks. But sometimes you get a lot more love from 7-Eleven. How y'all doing today, hon? You find what you need? There's more love than like, oh, you're late. I know we don't do that, Mark, but still, you've been there. It's like, oh, welcome to church. I see you made it. Just. We're not like that. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Oh, I noticed you weren't here last week. I wonder where you were. Well, actually, I went skiing with my family. Aha! Skiing with your family. Don't have enough time for God anymore? All right. Okay, just a few minutes left. I want to share you another experience I had in Korea. So let's go to another graphic. Unless you like that graphic, that's fine. There's nothing else I need to show. But it doesn't need to be that. I like the baby better than that. It's kind of 1990s graphic, by the way. All right, so speaking of which, Mother said, go to the next Hyojung Nuri. She sent Yumiko and I to the main church in Seoul to go to the Hyojung Nuri, HJ Nuri. All right. Now, Dr. Yoon Young-ho had been following Mother's instruction to try and set up new type worship experiences. And this is one of those experiences that he had been working on and leading from the stadium in Korea, right? Once I texted him and said, oh, this is great, you're doing a good job. And he said, yeah, if you want, I can help you. You can do this in Thailand. And I'm like, yeah, where do I start? Because what he was doing was like a stadium event. There's like 500 kids in there, bussed in from all the 5 sub-regions for that weekend, right? They did it about once every month or two. Hyojung Nuri, you didn't know it. Sleep at the wheel. Wake up, America. Anyway, so the stadium's full. They got lights, they got like cameras, they got LED screens, they've got this stage that comes out, and like, it's almost like the whole thing's this theatrical, explosion of performance, people popping out of the stage and like, kids running around in different colored t-shirts, singing songs, everything's choreographed. There's a play in there. How the hell they have time to put in a play performance? They've got a play, they've got a band, they've got magicians, they've got clowns, they've got, artwork. They've got 2 MCs doing a little cute thing here, a little cute thing there. The whole thing's like just this moving theatrical performance for kids. I'm just sitting there thinking the whole time, how does a 7-year-old sit through 3.5 hours without needing to run to the toilet? And when he texted me like, I'll help you set this up in Thailand, I'm like, dude, have you seen our church? How am I supposed to replicate anything like this, right? So, because it was too distant. But, Mother's changing things. She's still intent on achieving that. But she gave new direction. Shorten it, sweeten it, simplify it. So she sent me and Yumiko to the first ever Hyojung Nuri after the changes. We went to Seoul, and Will Kim, the YSP president, had been responsible, but his whole team's doing this. The first thing, and this will deserve a round of applause at the end of this sentence, it was 70 minutes. The kingdom of heaven is looking sweeter by the minute, guys. 70 minutes. 70 minutes. And I was told it would be an hour and a half. So it was even shorter than they told me. Like my sermon should be, over in 2 minutes. So what I want to convey to you, though, about this experience was it was similar to the stadium in terms of it being for kids. It was targeting kids. But the first thing I noticed, I'm sitting right there in the second row, right up there. And there's like families here. This entire area, it's like a 3-pew thing, right? And there's some back pews all over the place. But this entire middle section is just families with little kids. And the whole back wall is full of the seniors. I bet you those are the people that usually come to church, and these are the people that hardly ever come to church. Because church is too long and tiring and dusty for them, right? Basically, right? So all of these young families, little kids this big, sitting up, watching what's going on. Because everything's so fast. There's nothing that lasts more than 5 minutes. And guess what? This particular service is honoring the 73rd anniversary of the Korean War. That's right. It's a service about war for 6-year-olds. And they've got these 2 cute Korean girls decked out in like military uniform, but like cute military uniform, shorts with big black boots, You don't know how many years my wife has been fighting with the kids about you can't wear shorts to church, right? You can't wear, any other mother's been telling their kids you can't wear, I guess in California it's a little different. Yeah, don't worry, it's right. You can't wear shorts. Now the MCs are wearing shorts. Above the knee shorts. Military garb, celebrating war for children's service. How do you do that? But they're all cute. They're like, oh, I don't know. Oh, really? Oh, I don't know. Okay, let's welcome the Hyojung band. And then out, these 16 little kids, standing like ding, 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 in different color clothes. And there's everybody stand up, right? Everybody stand up. The music comes on, the lights change, and then we're going to teach. You got to learn this little dinky dance, and everybody's doing it with that kind of a face. And I'm watching how the people reacted. The kids are loving it. The kids are loving it. By the second time that we've got to get up and dance, like 20 minutes into the thing, you've got to get up again. I do notice the guy right here, the father with like 3 kids and a baby just born, who's carrying this baby the whole time. He's like, oh God, we got to get up again. Like, but as he's getting up, like, oh God, I got to do this again to do this dance, because it's not for his demographic. At that moment, I swear to you, I could see his little kids looking up at Daddy and saying, how do you like them apples? Now you get to sit through a long thing that you don't really understand. Now, finally, I get my service. Well, you can sit here and behave, Daddy, because we got to stand up and dance. The whole point is the kids were having a great time. Their kids were having a great time. Now, all the people in the back, you got to know, they're looking at this. I'm looking at the seniors looking at this, and they're like, right? They're looking at it like that. And apparently I heard that for the longest time, all of the sort of elders in the church were upset. So, what's this newfangled worship that we're doing for youth? This isn't church. Why? Because there was no picture of true parents, there was no prayer, there was no pledge, there was no choir, all the things that the kids love. Gone. Ricky's still looking at me like, gone. All the things that the kids love, gone. All there was a neon sign in the back wall that said Hyojang Nuri. I'm not going to walk through the whole theatrical thing, but basically it was made up of elements like Hyojang testimony. Maybe a little 11-year-old comes out for 5 minutes and gives a scripted, testimony about his experience growing up as a 3rd-gen mixed child in Korea or whatever it was. I gave a long, Mother asked for my reflection. I gave a long reflection with lots of points for improvement. There's definitely things to improve, like maybe teach them how to say it without reading from the script, and there's many things they can improve, but it's a really tight performance. Nothing lasts for longer than 5 minutes, and then there's transitions, there's lights. It's just what they've created to keep the little kids interacting, and not just that. There was hundoke, by the way. There was hundoke. The hundoke for these little kids was the part in Mother's story where she's crossing the Han River and she looks back and the thing blows up and there's body parts going everywhere. Yeah, that's the hundoke that they do for the kids. But what's interesting is they didn't just read it like, the MC's like, and now if we can bow our heads, we will have the hundoke reading of the day. Awkward silence. Can you hear me? And abe scriptum santum me Maria. No, it wasn't this kind of hundoke, right? It was cartoons on the screen with music underneath, and somebody was actually not reading the direct words. They were telling the story about the time that Mother crossed. It was direct from Mother's story, but it wasn't just reading the words. So they weren't even reading the words. Can you believe that? These precious words that were tirelessly translated by somebody from Korean to English, probably partly incorrectly, by the way. So it was connecting to the heart of it. And there was little cartoons, not of body parts, but appropriate little cartoons of the experience. And there was music going, oh my God, this is hundoke happening right here. Now, how do you know it worked? How do you know the Hyojang Nuri worked? Because one row behind me was Jonathan and Timothy. And every time I looked around, they had their eyes glued to the stage. And when we went home, we asked the boys, so what did you think? What did you think? I said, yeah, actually it was pretty good. And what did you learn? Timothy, what did you learn? I said, I learned that the 16 member UN nations were mobilized by heaven to protect Mother. You got that? Yeah, I got that. I'm pretty proud of myself too. So Yumiko's like, Damien, this thing's worked. If Timothy got something out of that, then we're good. I mean, it's targeting 7-year-olds, but Timothy loved it, right? So the point is, I encourage you to Google H.J. Nuri and take some time to look at the different things they do. You can imagine all the things they do. But the question is, what would we do here? What would we do here for our kids to make their experience awesome? Right? First thing we do is we'd clean up this 1983 carpet decor. No, I'm kidding. We have to make an environment that true mother would be proud to see. We have to be people that we don't just turn on our smiles when the lights go on, but you know, when we're seeing each other at the door, when we're getting ready to go, you know, don't beat your kids up about being slow and late for. The church shouldn't be a thing that we're dragging everyone to, right? It should be something that we're struggling to keep people away from because there's no more space, because we need a bigger church. We should be creating an environment where people want to stay, right, Respect? Do you think halfway through the week you're feeling a little bit, you know, stressed? Anybody get stressed in the week? Yeah, we get stressed. Anybody get bored and we get lonely? Anybody ever wonder, does anybody even love me anymore? Everybody have those thoughts? Oh, I need some inspiration. Where shall I go? Does anybody ever think about coming to hang out at church together? Unless it's a proper, meeting, we're not even allowed to go. We only go in the structured times. No. Mother said she wants the candles on all the time, the lights always on. There's always spirit and truth available for you, an environment available for you. So this is too short a time to convey my whole experience with these two things in Korea, but I can convey this. Mother wants us to write new songs. Mother wants us to make new movies. Mother wants us to make video games. Mother wants us to be creative. Wants to make new architecture, new foods, new experiences, all in response to attending Heavenly Parent. She's saying, look, we got to stop singing the songs of the wilderness, stop singing the songs of the New Testament age or the completed Testament age. She's saying, look at Hyojin wrote 10,000 songs. His songs are full of incredible heart of filial piety towards heaven. Let us do those. Let's renew those. Let's do them again. Let's make new songs. Her children are doing this. It's like she wants us to really do this. And although those of you that have been in the workshop, you've been hearing some deep things, that the pearls inside Mother's heart, that isn't what she's talking about all day. And I've got the transcripts. The leaders are sending me every time they have another meeting, like what Mother's talking about. And in the extended workshop, I would be reading you more of what Mother's talking about. Suffice it to say, she's talking about creating a department for future talent. She's talking about creating Hyojung culture and putting people in charge of making sure that we find the people who are creative and creating new content centering on attending Heavenly Parent. Is that good? Yes. Do you want to be part of a new community that's welcoming to come to? Yes. Do you want to be a part of creating that community? Yes. Do you want to be writing and listening to new songs? Oh, yes. Really? Yes. You want to be part of the Channel Good people? You want to be happy? Yes. You want to have a great dreams and excited intellect and an embraced emotion and a committed will? Yes. You want to enjoy that together? Yes. We don't want to be doing things we don't want to do anymore, do we? No. We don't want to be doing Indemnity Church anymore, do we? No. Let me hear you say it, seniors. No. I end there. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Let's give another round of applause to Reverend Damien. Okay, so before we go to the Chonchimon together, let's take a moment, or just a minute each, to digest, and then we'll go pray and we'll close out. So if you could turn to a neighbor and just share your inspiration for the moment as you're receiving that message. Okay. All right. Thank you, neighbor. Give him a high five. That's one way to stop them from talking, too. High five. Okay, so amazing Rebirth workshop. Can we give another round of applause to Reverend Damien? And so there's no better way to conclude this experience than let's all go together, whether you're part of the workshop or not. Let's come together, and we're going to pack into the Chuncheon one and offer our final prayer. So let's start heading over there now.